YouTube. What's new? I'm obsessed with Billy Elliot right now, which is a entire problem because I've only rented the movie on Amazon, but I really want to buy it. And when I say movie, I mean the musical version that was done live in like 20 something, one of the teen years. Has Tom Holland in it, like not as Billy, but he did play Billy Elliot. Fun fact. Also, fun fact, his angry dance is the best angry dance in all of the Billy Elliots. You can argue with me, but you're gonna be wrong. So, that's what's new with me. Also, I found out Joanna Cedia, I hope I said her last name correctly, is a swimmer, and I feel that in my bones because I swam in high school. I didn't swim the event she does. She does a lot of the freestyle ones. I did torture, and that the two events I swam were back to back. And if you were in a small meet, which did happen, it was not fun. Because I swam breaststroke and backstroke, and the way that those events are ordered in like high school meets is like back to back, like I said. So it was torture. It was great. Anyways, moving on. Let's get on to today's video. So when I posted, not my last video about being lost in London, but the video before that, I mentioned how lonely I was in law school. And before I get into the law school portion of this story and my experience, I want to first say my experience is probably not going to be like anybody else's because I have depression and anxiety. So, but also it doesn't just stem from law school. Like, as hard as it is for me to admit and me to want to put blame on other people for how my law school time was so lonely, I know that part of it stemmed from me, which is really hard to admit because that brings on a whole slew of problems and that I'm not likable and all this other stuff. So there's that, but also I want to say that a lot of this actually started when I was in grade school, when I was in high school. So let's start there. So I want to begin by saying I've never had a whole ton of like friends that I can go hang out with. And I mean, I'm assuming that I did, but the thing is, they never invited me out, and when I invited them over, I felt like it was more of a burden on them for them to come hang out with me than the other way around. And that really is a horrible feeling, especially in high school when you just want to be liked so badly to have friends because, yeah. And this isn't to like slight my high school friends at all because they are great people. I am still friends with all of them, which I don't think many people can say, but my high school friends are very solid friends. However, the way I look at it is, would I have any of them in my wedding? I'd have one in my wedding. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to offend any of them in case any of them watch this video. I love you all, but I'd invite you all to my wedding. First, I need to get a boyfriend. I'm still single. Shocker, right? But I would only have one of them actually in my wedding party, if that makes sense. Because that's how I equate like super, super good close friends and people that are just like a guest. Does that make sense? Like, does that metaphor make sense, or is it only just me that's making sense of this metaphor? Either way, that's the metaphor I'm going to be used is, would I have these people in my wedding party, or would they just be a guest to my wedding? That's like the friendship levels I'm seeing. Because they're still friends, but like I said, there was one time in high school where one of my friends, I'm not going to name names, though if she watches, she probably knows who she is, had a big like New Year's party at her house, New Year's Eve party. Something fell in my closet. Sorry, guys. But she had a big New Year's Eve party in her house, and she was talking about it with our group of friends because we all would congregate in the hallways like you do in high school, like School of Fish. That's probably where the name comes from. Anyway, so we would congregate, and she was talking about it, and I was like, am I invited? Because I had never even heard of it at this point. And she's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to invite you. And hearing that as a high schooler, it sucked. Hearing it now even probably would still make me feel the exact same way. And that is, I wasn't actually meant to be invited, but because I was standing there, they felt obligated to include me. That's how I view my whole life, is I'm not actually wanted. I am out there because I'm there. They are obligated to include me. And that is how I felt things have happened throughout, like once high school started, that's how I felt like things were throughout the rest of my time in school, which is a really crappy way of going through life, feeling like people are obligated to be nice to you. But like I said, I have anxiety and depression. It all stems from that. And I can't blame my anxiety and depression completely on my lack of social skills, because I have none. But the feeling of me feeling like people are like they don't want to invite me places and they're feeling obligated to do so, that definitely stems from the anxiety and depression. And yeah, not a fun feeling. And I can't even blame my friends that I felt that way, because it's not their fault. So that was high school. What's after high school? College, university was very much the same. And I'm going to be frank, I was in a sorority. I joined a sorority to have friends, to have people that I could at least talk to and not worry about things. You know, like I would get out of my dorm room, because probably wouldn't have happened if I wasn't in a sorority, because the sorority I was in, we had to be in 2 extra organizations. So it forced me to be out of my dorm room. And I love my sorority. I have a love-hate relationship with it because of how some things happened, which isn't what this video is about. If you want a story about that, well, you leave a comment if you want that kind of story. But I view my sorority sisters in kind of the same light. Would they be in my wedding party, or would they be invited? And this isn't to slight any of my sorority sisters, because the girls in my class particularly were always incredibly kind to me. Always, without fail. And I had an amazing big. I'm so sad that she decided to leave the sorority, but I had an amazing big who completely respected my boundaries, because I didn't drink at all until I hit 21. I was so nervous about breaking the law, even though even though everybody does it, even though my parents would have approved it if I was doing it at home with like them, I was so nervous about it that my sister, who is a lawyer, like 3 days before my 21st birthday, had me have a glass of wine, and that was like nerve-wracking to me. And she's like, it's fine, you have parental consent, you're at home. She's like, it's fine. And I was still like freaking out about it. Also, the wine she gave me I thought tasted like crap, so there's that. But my big really respected that about me, and she respected that I was a bit more introverted, and she was able to pull me out of my shell as much as she could, and I love her for that. But when it came to like being invited places, it never really happened. I was invited to the obligatory parties that my sorority threw, but I never like did the pre-gaming with anybody. I never was invited to that kind of stuff. I never was invited to get ready with people. One time my roommate, my first year, my second roommate of my first year of college, because that's also a story that I'll tell if y'all want me to, but my roommate was getting ready for a party. It was a Christmas party, and the lighting ceremony at Tech had just happened. If you don't know what that is, Google it. And she was going to a Christmas party, and she was getting ready, and in this entire time, and it was like an open party because it was being hosted by Bucks, which is the Christian fraternity, and they're open invitation. They allow anybody to come to their parties, which is really cool. But she was getting ready, and the entire time she was getting ready, I was watching, and I was dressed up pretty nice because I wanted to look cute for the lighting, for the campus lighting, and she didn't invite me, and I knew it wouldn't have been like a hassle for her to invite me because we'd gone to places. Well, here's the thing. We didn't even go to chapter together. She was in my sorority. We didn't even go to chapter together. That is how much she didn't like me. So much so that 2 days before Christmas of my freshman year of college, she texted me and told me she wasn't going to be moving back in with me. She was still living in the same dorm, just not with me. Yeah. That's how things felt with my sorority sisters, in that they only invited me if I was like there, and like even then it wasn't always like that. And would I have any of them in my wedding party? One, again. And it's this one, and I haven't talked to her in years, but I would still consider inviting her to my wedding party because I got really sick my freshman year of college. I had to go to the hospital, and the only person who came to visit me was this one girl who ended up later being the president of our sorority. And she was the only one who came to visit me. Out of all my sisters, out of my roommate, actually my actual roommate at the time, who wasn't in my sorority, did come to visit me at the hospital, but the girl I'm talking about came to visit me afterwards. So, but like my original roommate, my sorority sister roommate, yeah, she didn't do anything, which, surprise, surprise. But it wasn't fun. Feeling that lonely when you are surrounded by so many people and you don't physically know how to make them want to like you. I felt like they didn't like me, and I know that they probably did. I mean, we went on my last retreat that we did as a sorority. The seniors all bunked together at the little camp we were at, and they invited me to stuff with that, but also at the same time I felt like they were obligated to do so because I was a senior. But yeah, it's a struggle to feel like they ever really liked me because of how lonely I felt at the time. And again, that's part of the depression and anxiety. So yeah, that's all the background for what I went into law school as. I wanted friends so badly in law school. I was like, I do not want a repeat of high school. I do not want a repeat of college. And that kind of happened. I will say I do have more people from law school that I would have in my wedding party, but that didn't come until late in the game, like late. So my 1 year happened, and then there was this group of girls. They were all gorgeous girls. One of them was in my sorority but at a different college, and we met on our tour of the campus. And the group of girls she was friends with, I admired because they were all so smart, and I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be friends with them, and I tried everything I could to be friends with them. But what made me realize that they didn't really like me and they didn't really want to be friends with me. And I say this with a grain of salt because two of the girls, the girl who was my sorority sister from a different college, she's the one that actually helped me my 3L year in Con Law 2 when I was cold called on the first day of class. And then the other one is like the girl who did prepping the meals. If you've watched any of my other videos, that will all make sense. But the other girls in this group just never really seemed to like me. There were times where I totally felt like I was being judged by them, and I never knew what to do. I never knew how to interact with them. I never had the same kind of fancy clothes and expensive clothes that they did, and it felt very cliquish. And I'm gonna be honest, law school is like high school all over again. So even my sister said that, and she had a significantly better time making friends than I ever had. So yeah, I just really wanted this group of girls to be friends with because they were cool, they were smart, they just were everything that I wanted to be, and I wanted to be friends with them. And it just never happened, especially after first semester. They invited me to a party. I had to leave early because I wasn't feeling well. And then after that, nothing from them. And it was heartbreaking, but I started to try to find other friends. None of them ever invited me to things or anything. Like, I went to Barrister's Ball alone. And if you don't know what Barrister's Ball is, it's called Ball Prom because it's prom for law students, but with an open bar. And yeah, it's not fun being alone. And I didn't know what to do. And even then, even now, I still don't know what to do to like reach out to these people because I'm so bad at human interaction. So at the end of the first year, there are Board of Advocate tryouts, which are basically getting on the mock trial and moot court teams. I didn't make one, which is that's a whole nother video, my issues with the Board of Advocates, which I was the director of. So if you want that video, it's tea filled, even though y'all know nobody who was part of it. So I didn't make a team, and that actually introduced me to one of my really good friends who I haven't talked to in a while because we had a bit of a falling out, which was partially my fault. Like, all of this stuff is mostly my fault, which actually stinks, but I don't know what to do about it because I'm bad at human interactions. I have anxiety, depression, yeah, and I really shouldn't be using those to like put blame, like that's why I'm this way, but it's a great scapegoat. So my second half of my 1L year, it was rough. Like, I was alone. I wasn't doing well in school. I was very nervous that they were going to kick me out because of my grades. Like, there was one point around spring break where a mentor, and I've talked about this in my bar prep videos, but a mentor had to, like, one of my mentors came and like escorted me out of the library and just like we talked, and he does not know how valuable that was to me because he like talked me out of a panic attack basically. But yeah, my second semester was horrible. I was the loneliest that I'd ever been, and I would talk to the dean of students, and the dean of students actually set me up with a psychiatrist, psychologist, whichever one can prescribe medicine, because he's the one that diagnosed me with anxiety and depression. He actually set me up with a meeting with the on-campus medical center, and because I was like hitting rock bottom. And yeah, that, like, it's hard to admit, but it's something that you should, because a lot of times lawyers feel like they have to keep everything bottled in and they can't talk about anything because that ruins their reputation. So yeah, so that happened, and then 2L year started, and 2L year the beginning was pretty lonely, but the one reprieve I had was that I was in charge of a mock trial project for kids, and so that got me in contact with a lot of people. I talked with a lot of people. I thought I was friends with a lot of people, but I still wasn't invited anywhere. And then my second semester came, tried out for a team, for a Board of Advocates team, and I made a team by like the skin of my teeth. But the people I was on the team with became really good friends, and one of those girls is the one I mentioned. I think I mentioned her earlier, but she's the one that I kind of fell out with. That's when I really got close with her. Two of the guys on that team are two of my best friends now, and I know that like at parties and stuff I could go find them, or because we had parties in law school, that happens, but they were always like at bars. We didn't really do anything. If there were things that were outside of like the law school events that we did, which were like the bar reviews, which were just like going to a bar, if there was stuff outside of that, I didn't know because no one told me about that kind of stuff. No one told me about any other things that were ever going on. Though there was one time where I heard people talking about doing a ski trip, and I was like, oh, that sounds fun. That sounds like something I would want to do. and they were talking about it really loudly in front of me, and I was like, thanks for inviting me, but not. It's kind of like that kind of feeling. Also, I should preface this, before going into my 2L year, I got really close with like 2 of the guys that were on the mock trial team I was on, because we went to England together. So there's that. But going back to the mock trial team, that's where I met my really close friends. And so yeah, then we had tryouts for our second to last semester for BOA. And again, I didn't make a team, and it crushed me. It crushed my friend who I had kind of a falling out with, and we just like we bonded over the fact that we couldn't make a freaking team because we love the BOA. And she was really she was who I would consider my best friend. She still didn't invite me to things, but I'm not going to blame her for that, because I don't know what her life was like completely. But at the same time, I didn't invite her to anything either. However, yeah, I know she was more social than I was, so there's that. Yeah, it was just lonely. It was lonely because I was at home most weekends, not doing anything, not hanging out with people, because I never really felt like I had reached that level with anybody. I never really felt like I'd been friends with anybody like that, and it stunk. Like, I was hoping to find someone that I could potentially marry in law school. Like, that didn't happen. I don't know if that'll ever happen, which is really sad, because I hate thinking about that I'm going to be alone forever. My life sucks, guys. So then our last semester happened. I got on another team, and the people on that team are the girls on that team, well, and the other mock trial team I was on. The girls are probably the girls who would be in my wedding party. They mean a lot to me. And I don't want to cry in a video, guys, but I don't think they realize just how much they mean to me, and how much they helped me in that last semester, because I don't know how to put this accurately in words, because I'm trying really hard not to cry. But I didn't really have any expectations of like friends at that point, and being included in stuff with them made me feel really happy. And like, the part of the reason we had a falling out is because this new team had new people on it, and who I considered my best friend, became really good friends with another girl. And even though I loved this girl to death, I felt like they were like the dynamic duo, and I was just like, hey, like, we weren't the Powerpuff Girls or anything, though we probably could be. Not sure who I would be, because I wasn't the leader, and I'm probably Buttercup. Let's be real, I love the color green. But they were just like, it wasn't like a trio or anything, and that's how I felt like it was. But I love them both to death, and if they're watching this, I love you both. Like, from the bottom of my heart, you two have like made a world of difference throughout everything. One of them actually texted me after my second attempt of passing the bar, to give me trying to pass the bar, to give me some encouragement. So yeah. Anyways, law school was really, really lonely, and there were times I did not know what to do with myself, because I was just lonely. I would sit at home on weekends. I would have dance parties by myself. Like, I know YouTubers tend to make fun of themselves and be like, I don't have any friends, I'm at home all the time. This this is not something that I want to make fun of, because even though I do, because it's humor, my horrible humor, because y'all know I'm not funny, is a coping mechanism, but also like it was very real for me. I didn't feel like I had any friends. And even now, and it's worse with COVID, because I haven't talked to someone who isn't an immediate family member since I took the bar. And I mean like talk, like voice talking. Well, lies. I did help one of my teams with a competition thing, or my coach from one of my teams with a competition. So I did talk with some people, but however, like I haven't talked with like my friends at all. Like everybody's talking about having Zoom parties and all that, and that's not happened with me. And like I don't even know if any of my friends have group chats, because I'm not part of them, which fun feeling. But yeah, law school was really lonely, and I want to say that not everybody is going to feel that way. And even the people that you see with other friends of theirs, they may be feeling that way. So it's very subjective, but also I just want to share my experience, because like one of the things that I see in like movies and stuff is there's always like this one kid who's sitting alone and somebody comes to join them. And I want to be honest and say that only happened in high school, and even then it was rare. I never got to the point where I was eating lunch in a bathroom, but there were times where I would just like hole away by myself, especially in law school, and eat lunch on my own, because I had no one to eat lunch with. I had no one to talk to. I had no one to vent to besides my parents, and they don't understand because they didn't go through law school. My sister, as much as I love her, isn't always the best ear. I love you. Like, I love my sister to death, but we have not been perfect sisters, as no sisters are. But she's not always the best person to talk to when you're like frantic. She's great at listening, but she's also very like matter of fact, and sometimes I don't want that. I just want someone who will agree with me. So yeah, law school was hard for a lot of reasons, and not all of them were academic. A lot of them dealt with the social aspect of the fact that like even to this day, I feel like I still have no real friends. And while I say I would have some of these people in my wedding party, to go back to that metaphor that I'm using, I cannot say for sure if the same could be said for the other way around. Like, I would have them in my wedding party, but would I be in theirs is a question I can't answer. And that gives me like anxiety, because I've never been close enough with any of these people. Like, one of my friends got married, so 3 of my high school friends have gotten married. I was invited to 2 of their weddings, wasn't invited to one, which sucks and it hurts. But I wasn't a bridesmaid in either of their weddings. So one of my friends, she really only had like college friends and like her sisters in her wedding. The other one had a mix, and most of them were my high school friends, but not all my high school friends were in her wedding, because she had a small wedding. But at the same time, like, I feel like if I ever were to get married, I would invite them to my wedding. Would they be in my wedding party? I don't know. Probably not. Just because I feel like I've never been close enough to any of them. Like, let me put it in perspective of how I've never felt like I've been close enough to any of them. One of my friends lives, like, her parents, when she lived in Texas, she lives like 5 minutes from me, not even. And she was on the way home because we went to a private school, and her house was on the way home to my house. I live a little bit farther than she does. And she didn't always drive, because her and her mom had to share a car. And so she would have another friend of mine who had to come like to her house and then back up to her own house to drop my friend off. And I was never like, I always offered to drive this friend home who lived 5 minutes from me, but she never took me up on that offer, because the thing is, I don't know why, because I was like, it literally would not add any time to my drive home at all, because it was on the way, like street for street on the way home. So like, to the point where, I'm going to say this and I hope I don't reveal who it is, but like, she lived in the same neighborhood as my grandma. Granted, we didn't know about that when my grandma lived in that neighborhood, but she did. Because like, I think I went to her house for trick-or-treating once when I was really little, and we were like driving to her house and we passed by my grandma's house. I was like, Mom, look, it's grandma's house. So yeah, it's just like stuff like that that makes me feel like they never liked me in the same amount that I liked them and I wanted them to be my friends. It goes back to that they're obligated to like me because I'm there, instead of they enjoy my presence. And that's what I felt all throughout law school, but like in tenfold. And what didn't help was the added stress of law school. So yeah, law school was lonely, and the only real advice I can give on how to help, because honestly, frankly, I'm still dealing with that. The only advice I can give to help with that is, do not be afraid to get help that isn't a friend or that isn't someone who is a peer. Get actual help. So yeah, law school was lonely, and that's my story. I hope you all have a great day, week, night, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. I'll probably do a Billy Elliot comparison movie to musical video at some point, along with the Newsies one. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever, you can comment it down below. If you want to see more videos from me and more stories like this one about my time in law school, or what my other stories that I have mentioned in this video, subscribe and I might do it. I probably will, honestly. I need content. Comment down below if you want to see anything, if you have any video ideas for me. But yeah, if you like what you saw, subscribe and you'll get notified whenever I make a new video. So I will see y'all later. Bye!